Hey guys, just real quick, I just want to let you guys know you can find me at patreon.com/Jonathan Rector. All your financial support there goes directly back into making more content for you guys and you ladies out there. And remember, you can always cancel your subscription at any time. And if you are one of my Patreons, thank you so much. Your help gets me closer to making my personal comics and my dreams come to life. Seriously though, head on over there if you guys are interested, and anybody that gives any money at all, if it is something that you're interested in, you do get access to my pencil brushes that I use in Manga Studio 5e for free, and there's 5 of those guys. So subscribe today if you're interested in it, share if you're not, maybe one of your friends might be interested in it. I appreciate all of it. Thank you again, and enjoy the video. Bye. Hello everybody, welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com, and you can find me all over the internet on there. Just go explore, go take a look around. If you wanted to follow me on Patreon as well, you can head over to patreon.com/Jonathan Rector, and there's a whole bunch of information on that. I won't beat you guys to death with that. It's going to be a pretty quick-ish kind of show. The only news updates, really, are the Pomodoro Technique video article thing is going to go up hopefully tomorrow, which would be Thursday of the last week here of October, or Friday. One of the 2 days. I just need to record the video, and then I'll be posting it up there for those of you that are that are interested in it. Hopefully you guys give it a read and a watch, and you guys like something from it. And if anything, if the worst thing that comes out of it is that you get a little extra work done, that's horrible. That is absolutely horrible. But so I'm going to be working on here today is I've only got 3 panels left. They've been going actually really fast. To be fair, the art, maybe I'll talk about it as we go. Mostly just what I like to do, is read articles and hear workflows of people, and I start to see some overlapping workflows, and it starts to resonate with me as to my work output and what I can do and what I think I should be able to do and what I would like to do, that kind of stuff. But like usual, we'll get into the rambling of that. But this show here is for you guys and you girls, so if you guys had any comments or questions, needed help with anything, put it into the live stream chat here in all capitals. That way I can pick it out and see it and hopefully not miss it. And at the end of the show, about the last 15 minutes, 15-20 it's starting to look like, because the critiques seem to take a little long. But for the last 15-20 minutes, I'll give you guys a little shout out for it. And if you guys had a piece or a comic page or something that you'd like me to critique, if I can do so, I totally will. And you guys just pop it in the chat, and I'll pick one person, and then we can go from there. So I hope everybody's doing good. Who has had a kick-ass week so far. Not too much going on over here on my end of the world, but we're getting some pages done, making some leeway. It's going to be funny once the pages are done for this project, because the next thing up, and I'm actually really looking forward to that, they're mostly just like pinups to get put into this role-playing book, just to show the characters and things like this. But what I wanted to just talk about, what I kind of hinted at in the beginning of workflows and stuff. I keep hearing, and there's this, I forget the name of it. I wanted to write a note to tell you guys about it during the stream. Hopefully I can track it down, maybe I'll get it to you next week. But it was just sort of talking about a bunch of people that I guess are in indie comics, and they're talking about like how they get their work done. And a few of them were working for Image Comics as well. And what I found interesting, I mean, this isn't new news to me. It might be some new news to you guys. And this isn't the case for everybody. However, some of these creators, they're working for Image Comics, or they have a book coming out in Image, right? And I would think, most of us would think, oh, there you go, that's, you got it made. But most of them, they still keep their day job. And I mean, that's something I think a lot of artists, especially comic book artists, do, is you keep your day job, even if you're in comics. If you're working with Marvel, DC, something like that, where maybe the page rate is actually really much higher. I don't know. There's a lot of variables that go into Image Comics. But anyway, the article was mostly just talking about how these artists do it. And a lot of them, what they were saying, and it was sort of like a relief feeling in a way. It was that they know that, okay, so my comic page that I'm giving to somebody, or that I'm putting in the book, is probably like 70 anywhere from like 60 to 80% of your actual ability to draw, meaning it's not your best work. You try, you do the best you can, but because the deadlines and the time commitment is so huge that it's very difficult for a lot of people, if anybody, to give like 100% of your work on comic pages. And I'm not. The reason why that kind of hits home a little bit is because there's not enough time in the day, right? That's always what even though I'm going to let you guys in on that Pomodoro stuff that I've told you guys about, that's really awesome. But I still wish there was more time in the day and you didn't get exhausted, you didn't get tired and all that fun stuff, from work. And you could just come home and just knock out some more work, some more drawing, some more comics and stuff like that. But it was a really cool read. If I can find it, I'll let you guys read it too. I don't know. I like hearing stuff like that, hearing about people that are actually working in comics, and just hearing their solutions to problems. I don't know. It's cool stuff. It's cool stuff. So Lars is asking, last week you helped me with my piece. At one point you said that I need to compare the hands with the face because it was out of proportion. Could you explain it to me? Oh, sure. So this, where did I read this? I don't know. This is pretty much talked about, I think anyway, in almost every anatomy book. So you could even do this test right now. Get up, or after the show, go up in front of a mirror, take your hand, open it up. Look at that hand, and put it on your face. See how much of your face your hand, just a regular face, like your hits. Like for me, I can feel the palm hitting up against my chin, and it goes about to my brow line. So let's just say this is me. Absolutely handsome. I put a hand on my face right here. The thumb's kind of going up around there, and the middle finger's hitting up here. So that's the proportion of the hand to me anyway, right? So what I'm saying is, just think of that. Just think of this kind of, that's how much it should take up of your head, so that when you're drawing a generic pose, like when you start getting into foreshortening and stuff, there's a lot of not liberations, but there's a lot of things you can get away with, right? So when you're drawing like your characters or whatever, I'll just draw real lame here, and you got your hand going, or your arm, sorry, and you get in your hands, and your hands are like big old fist or something, and you got this kind of hand coming up, and this is sort of the problem you were having, like this, right? So the problem was they were two different sizes, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but one quick safe check that you can do when you're just doing like generic poses like this is, again, look at the size of the face, and just remember that, like, if this hand was spread out, that's about as much room as I have. So this hand looks good, this one's way too big. So you would just shrink this guy up, If it's still a fist, be like that. That's all. It's just comparing it like that. So hopefully that cleared it up for you. What's Greg saying? Also, your foot is the length between your wrist and elbow. And that always looks way too big. It's probably pretty true. Just little tricks like that. So, because you've got way too much to worry about when you're doing comics, let alone the figure work and stuff. So, it's my opinion, that's why these sort of little tricks, people come up with them, right? Alright, let's just get some ground in here. How are we going to do this? I guess we'll do 1 point. So, we'll get the ruler. Okay. Let's see if this is going to work here. Nope. Okay. So let me rotate this guy here. So I start doing these sort of things too. Speed lines. I'll put them in certain spots like this, right? And what that does is just lets me know where the speed lines are going. And then I can start building them up from here. What this comes from is doing it like traditionally, like on a regular piece of paper. I would just sort of plot this out real quickly. That way you know if you're going to waste time doing speed lines. There's even a point to them if they're just going to be too bulked or that they're not even going to show up, you know. I'm going to actually draw in white here a little bit. Okay. Find the perspective ruler. Do you know exactly what it is about the perspective ruler that you find confusing, or is it just it's confusing? A couple more lines in here. Alright. Let's erase the spill over here, then we can get on to the next panel. Let me just see what you guys saying there. Sage's Beard is asking, do you have any tips or things you do to power through fatigue to meet deadlines? Example, switch from coloring to something else. I've tried. I wish I had a better answer. If you're like me, then maybe we'll have something here that we can, you know, both understand where we're coming from here. I do work a full-time job. You know, very grateful for that. But when I come home, I still have client work and deadline work. Not only that, but like there's stuff I would love to do too, right? Like just draw my own books. And there's a lot of times you just come home and, like, to be fair, the job I have, I'm the designer there, right? So that means I do anything design related, plus concept art and things like this. So I could be all over the place. Some days I could be designing levels. Sometimes I could be doing pop-ups in video games and stuff, right? And they all tax me in different ways. The concept art stuff, that I come home, I'm done. I don't really even want to do anything, which isn't good, I don't think. But to get around it, there's a lot of mumbo jumbo I hear, and it works for some people, it doesn't work for me. It might work for you, I don't know. But people, they'll say this thing where it's like, well, if you want it bad enough, you'll do it. And for me, it's like, well, of course you want it bad enough, but it's like a physical thing, right? That's doing this. It's not necessarily you sit down and just be like, oh yeah, I'm done my day's work. Even if who knows what your day job is? It could be at a cashier or something. But coming home and a lot of that creative energy, that early energy that you have, it's gone, you know. So a solution anyway, one that I would love to be able to get back into. It's very hard to stay in it, or at least it was for me. Once you slip a couple times, and it doesn't get better. And what it is it's getting up early. That's it. This might not work necessarily. Well, no, it'll work no matter what. If you got kids and things, then that's getting into something else where I can't really relate to it. But let's just say you're the average job here, like if they still exist, you know, 9 to 5. And you normally get up at 8 to get ready for work. We'll just say it's that. Maybe you got to get up at like 6 so that you get like a nice solid hour of just your own stuff. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but an hour every week. That's 5 to 7 hours, right? And that's about the only real way that I've found that I can stay energized reliably. But I was getting up, guys, I'll tell you now, it was like 4 or 5 a.m. So I'd have like 2 to 3 hours to job before going to work, and it wasn't bad, except around like 3 or 4 o'clock at work, I could start to feel like, all right, now I gotta have like another coffee so I can still do some good work at work. I don't want to go to work and be doing garbage, submitting nothing. That's not good. That'll just get you into a world of crap. If you're doing freelance, I mean, I guess it would have to be, is that what you want to be doing? If you can't find the energy, is freelance really what you want to be doing? I'm assuming that's not what you're doing, though, if that's the question you're asking. I'm going to go ahead and say you have like a day job or 2 part-time jobs or something. So there's that. And then, like I say, I do have an article that I'll be posting tomorrow, Friday, talking about the Pomodoro technique. If you don't want to wait, just Google the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro, I believe it is. Pomodoro technique, it's called. And it's just a time management thing. That has actually helped me out big time. What my article and video is going to show is how I take that ideology and that workflow and just do some different things with it to make it relevant to comic books or illustration, but specifically comic books. And I mean, I could give you guys a rundown. If you guys are interested, I could give you a rundown right now. You guys just let me know if that's something you even care about, or if, time management's one of those things I think always pops up. Some people are into it, some people don't really care and all that sort of stuff. But I just want to catch up to what you're saying, because I'm sure, like, I'm asking you questions here and I'm not really... Lars, I will help you with the ruler in a second there. Hey, Michael. Sagebeard, agreed. I find I jump between client work, penciling to coloring or something. I freelance a lot and work on my own work also. I remember you talking about that waiting for the vid. Okay. So if you are a freelancer, then yeah, when I was doing freelance, the biggest thing, the biggest problem I did, that I remember, and I still remember, is kind of like, I wonder if I could still be doing freelance if I hadn't done this. And what it was I never really settled on a creative project on my own, like for my own. It was always client work, and then I would it's a problem, I'm getting over myself right now, where I've always got an idea, or a new idea comes up, and a lot of people call it the new and shiny and that sort of thing. But I've just come to realize that the stuff that I love about projects is like the beginning, where you start to come up with like the life of the book, right? And that's what gets me interested in stuff. I guess it's the story element to it. Whereas, like right now, I'm doing, this is like I call it like the grunt work, where it's now you got to do the penciling and the thumbnailing and all that. Even thumbnails, I get a little bit more juiced. As like right now, this sort of stuff, for me, there's not much thought going into it. It's all kind of like automated at this point. It's just try to draw it as best you can in the time you got, and hopefully, well, you want your client to be happy. I don't want to I still want to hand this in and for them to go, oh, kick ass, and maybe come back to me for more work, right? Like that's the goal. But when I first got this project handed to me, and this is just, I'm using this as an example because this is what I'm working on. It was like, oh yeah, like, let's do a role-playing book with superheroes, and hell yeah, let's go ahead and let's start designing characters, and how does this world work and stuff. Like that's the stuff that's getting me going. So in freelance, what was happening was I never gave myself the creative outlet to see any idea through. So what would happen was my client work started to suffer, because I would always jump from idea to idea, as opposed to, okay, well, the client works a day job, and then hopefully I'll still have that energy at the end of the day to just do something simple. That's the main thing that I'm trying to push towards as well, is for client work like this, there's a certain style that people usually pay me for, And if you're doing freelance, it's probably the same for you as well. There's like a house style, like a Marvel DC sort of style, like a comic book style, or there's maybe you just have like a cartoony style or something. But that's what most people know you for, and that's what you get your most work for. For me, when it comes time to do personal work, like I would love to just sit down and just render the hell out of like, I don't even really care too much about superheroes, but like a nice fantasy book would be, whew, man, are you kidding? Like render out dragons and just start coming up with character classes and stuff like that, and just again get, you know, a lot of people they'll talk about like don't write stories like J.R.R. Tolkien where it's like all you do is you just keep making, it's called world building, and that's all you're doing is world building. But that is, oh man. And it's funny because I've had to come through a lot of BS with myself to just realize like that's all I need to be doing to be happy is making books that are basically world building for myself, but the style, the art style isn't what I'm doing right now. And I'm not saying it's, you know, this is the comic here, we're going to put some guys in, yeah, and we're, you know, walking around. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's got to be a way to simplify things so that I can produce content that I want people to read, and hopefully they'll read, right? But it's not the rendered out stuff that I'm doing now. So maybe that might be it for you. I'm not sure if it's just a style change so that you can do more personal work, if maybe that might be it. But to keep energized, try waking up early. That'd be the #1 thing. But what you could do today, again, I'll just double check to see if anyone even cares about how I do the Pomodoro thing. I can tell you guys tonight if you're interested in it. If not, like I say, it'll be out tomorrow or Thursday, and that might help you out as well. Do you think I'd want to be a creative director? Yeah, that'd be actually really awesome. But I still feel like I would need, I don't know 100% what the creative director's job entails. I suppose it just depends on the size of the team, right? If I've got like some really fucking kick-ass artists, there's no point for me to really do anything, I don't think. Like drawing wise, it's just sort of seeing the vision. You probably draw here and there, but if it's more of like a smaller team, who knows? And I'm not really thinking that far ahead. Like, I'm not looking for a job to be a creative director or anything like that. I just want to tell a story and get the ideas out of my head on paper to show people. Whether it sucks or it's just the same old stuff that everybody's seeing all the time, that's okay. It's like a pent-up energy that I just need to get out, sort of thing. And I'm hoping some of you guys and girls experience that too. That way it just makes me feel like, all right, it's not just a singular problem. Everybody, not everybody, but there are people that have that issue as well. Okay, so Lars was talking about perspective ruler. I just want to see what his problem was. You haven't really dug into it, but lately you've been trying to do something about it. Like all the dots you can adjust the ruler with. Yeah, I think it's you just don't know what those dots are doing here. Okay, so here, let me just... Oh, okay, I wanted to point this out real quick too. I had to put this on my Surface Pro, but I just downloaded the new, or it's probably been out for a while now, the update for Manga Studio 5, and it's sick. Like this, I just when I saw this part, I was like, man, this is software that just keeps getting better, and I'm honestly looking at switching my coloring to just going into this. I think I'm done with Photoshop for some of the stuff, and it's not because of what I'm going to show you here. It's just the idea of everything. It's Manga Studio 5 is quickly becoming like the place to be. As for inking, I might go back to Manga Studio 4. You guys have heard me talk about that. But anyway, so if you go File, New, they've got like these new settings now, man. Like maybe all you do is cover work or an illustration. Boom, right there. This little thing here's for illustration. That's all you need. And I agree 100%. The paper color, the size and stuff like that, it's fine. But then you click on this guy, comic. Boom, all this opens up. Is this the cover? Here's some things. Look at this stuff they do, guys. They even show you, like, how are you doing your book? Is it pages opening this way? Is it like a wraparound cover? Or is it just an individual book? I haven't gone into this too much, but, you know, all the stuff you'd normally see in what you would do with your comic. I think this is new. I could be wrong. But... you can actually start with, where was it? The sort of font. I guess it'd be a default font size and stuff. Like that's awesome. It's little things that probably nobody cares about, but the fact that it's in there means that they give a shit. If you ask me, you know, and that's awesome. Now this was the fun part right here. Printing of fanzine. Printing of fanzine. Or mini comic. How sick is that? You know? I don't know. This is the business right here, guys. I'm telling you. Anyway, yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and then this last one was, I think it just showed all. But yeah, just little things like that are just really really clean. I like them. Okay, so let's just do a quick 3-point perspective, and then I'll throw the rulers on here just to show you sort of what's going on here. So boxes. Everybody loves boxes. Nice and simple. Just trying to pretend that this is... Oh, what the... Ugh. I'm just trying to pretend that this is sort of like a sketch, even though it's... I'll just try to get sketchy here. Gross. All right, so you'd have that. Now, what I do for the rulers, and I'll just kind of go through real quickly what your what some of those dots do. I don't know all of them, but we're gonna figure them out as we go. I'll just show you the ones that I know that I get around with. So you just click your ruler tool. It's probably set up differently for you. It might be the line tool. I'm assuming you know how to get to your perspective ruler. And it's just right there, perspective ruler. I don't really mess around with anything else. And there's other things here that pop up here, right? Like adding vanishing points and stuff. What is this? Change 1-point perspective to 2-point perspective. I don't know what that means. But anyway, so I would grab it, and I would find my like plumb point or your horizontal line, and I would just kind of go like that. You can hold Shift to lock it in, right? So I'll say that's my horizon line. And then I just need the up and down lines, so just call them that. I call them plumb lines. I forget where I saw that, but the easiest way to remember it is if you had a piece of string and you tied like a washer to the bottom, like a weight, like a metal weight, and you held it up in front of you, straight in front of you, kind of like a stopwatch. And what's going to happen is the gravity is going to pull that weight down, right? And that string is your up and down lines. All right, that's how I always remembered it, and it just made things easier for me. And I'm not going into crazy perspectives here. So we just put that down, right? So you go, we would have, that's all our lines. Now the 2-point perspective, right? This is where I go in and I pick my lines. That's why I always like to sketch in my perspective. That way when it comes into actually throwing in my perspective, then I can care about straight lines. I think if you have a general understanding of 1, 2, and 3-point perspective, you should be able to sketch it in roughly, right? So now that I have my sketch, I just picked 2 lines for a 1-point or a 2-point perspective here. So you see these bottom lines here? I'm just going to pick one of these buildings. So I'm going to pick this front rectangle in front. So I'm just going to click, I don't know, anywhere here, and you can just drag it. Do you see me? I don't know if you guys can see that cursor, but I'm just dragging it, and I'm moving it to try to line up with that. I'm going to do the same thing with this top line. And you'll notice it'll snap to where it's supposed to be. You could turn that off, but you may as well just snap it there. It'll just keep everything easier. Now on this last one, what I'm going to do is use the background one, because this one here feels like too close. It's going to look kind of shady. So I like to just let it snap in. It just keeps everything right on the horizon line. So let's just say you have it there and you're like, I don't know, it's not feeling right. If you just go up there and you click your what is it? Is it the object selector tool? I believe that's it. No. Oh, it's at the bottom here. That is your, what's this one called? Is this the object? Subtool, I guess. And you can click any of these lines. Now I'm a liar. Oh, that's what. Okay, so my apologies. Up here at the top, there's one. It's the operation tool. You just have to make sure that it's on object, not layer. I don't know why it was going around there. And this is where you just click a line. So I'll just show you what these lines mean. Like, this is crazy, right? These blue lines, they let you move the lines, or the blue dots let you move that horizontal line or whatever the main line is that's going through them, right? So you can just move it around. That's your horizon. You don't want to be moving around that. The green one just moves it up and down. And there's like these little like squares here. Or let me check where they're at. Yeah, they only show up. I don't know why it's not letting me grab it. This little green line here you can move around to just sort of like line up with other things just to see if that's where the perspective should be for you. I just want to make sure it's all going right. Yeah, okay. And I mean, once you have it all done, and I know this is probably going pretty into a lot of stuff here for you, especially on just a stream, but when you made that perspective layer, it's going to lock it to a layer on its own. So you're always going to see this grid, okay? And up at the top here, you're going to have like rulers and stuff. You want to make sure it's snapped to ruler. That way when you draw your nice crisp lines, it's going to follow. Ah, crap. That's why. Okay. That green line that we had, where did it go? It's got to be straight. I moved it by accident. Or maybe I boom, boom. I can't even find where that went. Awesome. And yeah, to be honest with you, sometimes this happens with me too, is that sometimes the lines or the perspective ruler does screw up. I don't usually go in there. I kind of just do what I showed you before, where once I have it in there, I might just rotate it. That's about it. I feel like if you can sketch in a perspective, you're probably pretty good. So let's just say, let's get a bigger brush here. So we'll put little Steve here. He's running at us, or maybe he's looking around. You know, like, where is that big monster? And we'll give him a big sword. So Steve's a monster hunter guy. Right, so we're looking up at Steve. Steve's looking this way, but he doesn't see like the giant monster that's right behind him. Right, and as you're drawing this, I would hope you're thinking of anatomy, but what you're really thinking about here is your perspective. Like, how is all this kind of fitting in, right? And what I do here is, and you guys have seen me do this in concept art videos, where again, instead of a box, I'm picking the lines from these characters. So like this guy here, put the perspective that he's in. Then I'll kind of like pick those lines. Maybe we can just like make the room that he's in. So we'll put like giant pillars maybe. Let's put these little pillars back there to make it really look like it's pushed back. Right, and I would have that, so now all I do is just lower the opacity, make a new layer, or you can just click on perspective ruler, it'll make one. And now I just pick my perspective, right? So the horizon line and the plumb line. So the plumb line, again, the up and down line, is going this way. Just putting in between these here, and just trying to picture this here. Your horizon line's way down here, might even be lower than that. So once I have that, that's where this is the only time that I actually go in here. I'll click this guy, and this is where I'll just, where is it? They're like these little, here. Can you guys even see this? Let me zoom right in. No, you can't. But you have to trust me. There's these little plus marks, right? Those are the ones you want to click so that you can rotate it. And the reason why I'm rotating it is that I can get the plumb line to look the way it should there. Okay. Just grab your perspective, and then now again, just pick the two sides of whatever you want. So I've got lines coming down to the bottom here, so I'm just going to pick the extremes. So one here and one down here, and again I usually just let it snap if it wants to snap. There you go. And then we'll just do the other side, and you don't have to let it snap, I mean, unless you're trying to go for perfection. Nobody's really going to call you on it. And then from here, you know, you can just kind of ink your background. Another trick too is like sometimes you can see like it's not picking my lines. What? Holy hell! If this was the demo for how cool Manga Studio's perspective rulers are, nobody would buy this. Oh my goodness. Just give me 1 second here. I want to make sure. Oh, see, this is what happens when I start talking to you guys. I get it backwards. This is supposed to be up here. I had the perspective in the wrong spot. It's all vanishing above him, right? So the horizon line's above him. Jeez. So let me just grab these and see. So these little lines that come off it, they're sort of like your guidelines. Light up. Great. Now we're getting there. Gee, buzz. Let's see if we get lucky. There we go. So clearly, even, you know, not to gloat or anything like that, but even I need to go in here and just look at them a little bit more, just understand. There's a Doug Hills video on YouTube. Check out Doug Hills. He has one where he goes over this. That's the one I remember watching. But I find like after a while, once you find out exactly what it is you're looking for, you'll cling on to that sort of stuff, and then just sort of, you know, go into it from there. I fall back anyway on things that I remember. So like just the rotating of the canvas, but what it was my perspective was wrong. That's the flaw that I had there. But yeah, you can just go ahead and do that. Let me just quickly double check. I will say now, because there's 20 minutes here, if you guys did have anything you'd like me to critique, please by all means post it into the chat here, a link to the image, as well as what you're looking to get critiqued. Is it just general critique, the style, the anatomy, perspective? And I don't screw it up like I just did here. I'll go ahead and toss it in. I'm just going to catch up in the chat here. My opinion on motion comics? I don't really have one. I mean, if it's a good story, I'll read it. The only kind of comics that I like that are, I guess, in the vein of motion being in it, they're like animated GIFs or GIFs, where it's just like a flash of color or like lighting going around something. I don't really necessarily care to see people running and moving. I understand it. Like you don't have to do a whole comic book like that, but it starts turning into like animation as opposed to like a comic book. But in saying that, if the story is good, you know, it's not like I only read comic books because comics are the greatest and the best way to get story. That in my opinion, that's not true. It's just a style of storytelling that I enjoy. So I don't know. If it's good, I'll read it. I just don't actively seek it out. Okay, I'm probably clearly late on that, but thanks for stopping by, Sage's Beard. Wow. See you later, the 3 box. Is that your name? Okay, so yeah, okay. I think it was Lars was saying you're focusing on anatomy and that's your problem. I think what happens when you do that, I've done it too, is that the anatomy starts taking precedence over form, and that's not what you want to be doing. So an example would be, we'll say, sort of like a bird flying overhead, that kind of view, okay? Bird's eye view. And what you do is you might start with the head, and you know this stuff's got to start folding down because you're looking down on him. But then you get into weird stuff like, okay, well, his neck has to go in here, and his traps, they go up here. I know there's like an egg shape for his rib cage, and then like maybe a box for his hips, and then his legs. There's a thigh muscle, then a knee, and you know you might know your foreshortening too, so it might not be that bad. Then you need a shoulder. It's got to go into a like the arm. It's got to go into the forearm and the hand, right? Like it starts to look like this. And the problem with that is that I see it all the time. I try to be aware of it in my work as well because it's something I'm trying to get better at too. But what it is it is clearly that it's your anatomy is replacing form, and form follows perspective, right? So like Bam saying, for me, the initial gesture and energy of the illustration, the finishing stuff sucks. Exactly, and to me, like, there's a lot of people that they just like to sit down and spend hours finishing something, and I always tip my hat off to those guys because it's patience and it's seeing something to completion, which I always adore when people can do. But that initial energy, that's I think what the high is that I get. It's like, yeah, let's see if we can get something started and go, right? Anyway, to get back to this, so to fix this, you need to start with like what Michael's saying. I know it's not exactly related to this, but a gesture or scribbles. Have an idea of where you're going and then build your perspective into it. That's one way to do it if you're just doing figure work. If you're putting a character into a scene, I'll show you that in a second. But let's redo this and build a perspective around them, right? So again, we know we want, this is what we're thinking in our head. So what I usually do is I'll just, you know, I might go in there and throw in like where the character's kind of looking, and then just start throwing in like lines. It's really not much. I'm not really showing too much here. And then I'll just sort of, again, gesture out where stuff might go. I know the perspective is going this way, so you know his legs here, and then this one's probably going to shoot out because there's a perspective line that's going to go like that. And we'll go like that. I'm just gesturing stuff in here, right? He looks like he's leaning forward a bit. So let me just grab him, rotate him. I'm not spending a lot of time on this guy. Not like this. So we've got this. Now the next stage that I'll do on top of this, now this is where I'll put perspective on top of him, right? Again, follow straight lines that you see them. So his heels are probably going to be like here, which create this straight line. And I'm just going to throw that straight line way the hell out there. Now I know these lines, they could go this way as well, but I would like them to kind of come up to a vanishing point at some point. Let me just move all this stuff down here so you can see the vanishing point. So I know I want to bring it in like this. So I'm just gonna, that'll probably be his collarbone line, right? So that'll be his collarbone. Now I know everything's got to kind of follow this sort of perspective. And then we just do it on the same side too, so his heels are going this way, right? And again, your plumb line can be up and down. But now that I have this stuff, this is where I can start worrying about, all right, how do things fit in here. If you want to start with the head, I can go ahead and do that. I know it's still got to turn in here, but I can use that perspective line for the chin. And I can see that his head's getting way too big over this stuff, so things need to shrink. So I always like to think about the side that's closest to us, because that's the stuff that you're going to be able to see. And again, I can use a perspective line, get some foreshortening in here. For his pecs, I know where his shoulder's going to go. And again, this is a really simple pose. So worry about where his hips are going to go. All right, so we can worry again. Now you can see, right? You can see these perspective lines coming in, which means this cylinder's got to. They're going away from us here. All these lines. And I can use all those lines over here to form the other side of the arm. Uses a knee here. Right, so do you see the difference here that's happening? Right? Like one of them looks like they're more in perspective than the other one. And all I did was start with the character, build the perspective around them. As for the other way around is, again, if it was a room, make it simple, right? Get a horizon line in there. Maybe we're in like a bar or something. I'm just going to throw in some plumb lines. We're going to worry about some perspective. So we'll put a 1 point perspective here. Maybe that's the doorway. Somebody's coming in. Right? And then I want to put one off here so we can get some cool kind of lines happening this way. Right? So you can just start to build a scene around them. David Finch, if you search for him on YouTube, he has a really good tutorial on this. I do the same thing when I'm doing this sort of thing. If the scene's important, okay? Like if it's a guy breaking into a bank here, you know, maybe it's a door like this, and I'm just going to, now that I have my perspective in here, I'm going to put the main, this guy is the focus, right? So maybe he's got his arms up over his face, and he's breaking through the door here, and the door is just like, boom, blown off. The handles here, just explosive, right? But now that I have him, this is where you can start to build other characters into the scene. This is an Andrew Loomis technique. I think everybody by default uses this sort of thing. So this guy's here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel the head over here. I'm just going to get a gesture in of somebody's, let's go this way. This way they're a little bit more afraid. Sort of the same pose, but this person's, oh God, someone just broke in. You know, maybe they're covering their face. And what you're doing is you're populating the scene with characters, and you're using these characters for other people in the scene. So if I want, I could follow this guy's line. This is a little bit more advanced stuff here, but this is how you start to figure out actual size of characters. Like this guy, if there's somebody way in the foreground, maybe a cop, you know, his head's way up here and his feet are way down here. Like this guy is massive. That'd be in the foreground here like that, right? But you can start to see where, okay, well maybe I can put just a hand and like, oh God, you know, like they're just getting scared sort of thing, and pillars and stuff. So that's the way I would go about doing that. But always be thinking about perspective. Perspective helps your form all the time. And the more you think about it, the more you try, the more easier it becomes. Like I say, fill sketchbooks up with circles and squares, man. You'd be surprised what you can do with that. Like this guy, once again, bird's eye view, so he's looking this way, right? So we're going to have a square. I'm just trying to, again, like a square is perspective. So if you want, you can just do the chest, follow the perspective you just made of the chest. Eventually these will hit a vanishing point. You can, if it's off your page, just pretend it's there, like have a feeling for it. These lines are still going this way, and you know that like this character is going further and further down. So the chest comes up, you know, maybe you got like a little gushy part here for the hips or for the abs, and follow that perspective again. Right, and you can see errors right away, right? Like now this is starting to look like a female because the bottom is a little bit bigger, stuff like that. And like these are things you just work out. They're natural problems you're gonna hit, and then it's up to you to figure this out. But you have to do this to come across these errors so that you're aware of them as you go forward, sort of thing. Do you have a pro tip for a vanishing point when you are working traditional and the page isn't big enough? Yeah, do this, okay? So let's just say, and then I'm going to do Michael's thing there, and then I have to get going, guys, in about 10-15 minutes. I do have a Patreon meeting here. So I'll try to be quick. So let's just say this is your kitchen table or your drawing table, and you've got your 11 by 17 comic page, and it's a splash page of a 3-point perspective. People falling down into a city. Okay, so you're going to keep it simple, I would assume, and you go, what you want to do is tape this down and figure some things out. I like to sketch in, again, go very light, just go, okay, what am I doing here? So you're sketching in a perspective. Does this work? Is this what I like? Is this dynamic enough? Do I need to move the vanishing point up here to have it look this way? Like, what's dynamic enough here, right? That's what you're trying to figure out. And do this if you want on a piece of scrap paper on the side of your page. Or what we're going to do is just use a piece of paper for a vanishing point. You can do that too, right? There's a couple methods. This one is just the one that I like doing. So let's just say this is what I want. Okay, cool. So I will... where's this one? So then I grab my kneadable eraser and I just lightly erase a perspective so it's still there because I need to see certain things, right? So what I'll do now is I'll grab, I bought a meter stick. Like, go to your local hardware store and just get one of the metal meter sticks, and you're going to use it for this. This is the whole point of the meter stick. So what you do is you find two lines, right? Your extreme lines. So we'll say this one. And what I do, this is where it kind of gets, iffy. You can actually tape paper onto your comic board and then just take it off. Use masking tape for that. That's one way of doing it, but it's a lot of paper and it's a lot of work. What I'll usually do is I'll just draw right on my table. Very lightly, with something that can be erased, like a pencil, okay? So I track this line all the way down, and then I would track this line all the way down, and eventually it's going to hit a point, right? And if it's off your page like this, this is where I would probably end up moving this up or taping a page to this if I want to keep this here. So if I taped a piece of paper to that, then I would just put a point like that. Or if I didn't do that, what I would do is I'd rip off a piece of masking tape and just put a piece of masking tape right here with the point on it. Okay? And then I would do the exact same thing for like the other lines. So I'd look for the extremes and another piece of masking tape. Just do the same thing on this side. Like that. And then I get your meter stick and you just start putting in lines. Not too heavy, but enough lines that you can see them again. Right? And once I have all that, then the next thing I do is I take my kneadable eraser again and I just kneadable eraser it like that. And all the information I need is still in here, right? So when I'm penciling, I can go in here and I can just start making buildings if you wanted. The lines are all pretty much straight. You've already figured all that work out. Now, the thing that sucks about that is, again, the meter sticks are actually pretty cheap, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The only other thing here that sucks is if you run out of room to do these gigantic perspective lines. There's one more trick, if I can remember it off the top of my head. We'll do a panel here instead, and we'll just do, again, we'll sketch it in. We'll do the exact same perspective as we already did before. So we'll do that, and then we're going to say there's another crazy perspective way over on this side somewhere, right? Once I have that, kneadable eraser again. I just need to be able to see it before I start committing lines to it. Right. So what I'm looking for is the this perspective point that's way the hell off the page. What you could do is you do something like this, okay? You've kind of sketched it in, you know where it's at. What you do is you make marks, okay, on the side of the panel or the page. So make sure they're, how do you do this? You make smaller lines on one side and bigger lines on the other side. So, but they have to be the same amount, that's what it is. So we'll do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on the other side you just space them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just connect those lines. Okay. Now that you have that, all you do is for every point you put on here, you put one on the opposite side. Point, point, and what you're doing is, as you can see, like I'm putting them. Theoretically, they're perfectly in the middle of each. And what's going to happen is you're going to start running out of room, right? But that's okay because this is where you've kind of got these lines anyway. So how is it that we worked this out? If you wanted to, this is where you could tape a piece of paper behind your panel like that, and then just continue this line up here, right? It's stuff like that. Again, if we were actually, if I sat down beside you guys and was showing you this, it'd probably be much easier than it is this, because you know, you can ask me right on the fly if something's kind of working for you or not. But that's the one way. I again prefer doing it this way. It seems like it might take a little bit of time, you know, but just check up how to do perspective, like actual architecture stuff. That architecture will teach you a lot of things, especially for perspective. So hopefully that'll help you out there. All right, back to where we started. These other. Alright, do a little cheese in here. Yeah, no problem. I mean, hopefully that helped you guys out. I know it's pretty complicated, that stuff. Whenever you start talking about like numbers and rulers and things need to be a little bit more precise, for me anyway, I always find that it's a little scary sometimes, because when you're doing anatomy and gesture drawing and stuff, you're sort of like supposed to be loose with some form that's recognizable in there. When it comes to like perspective, there's this feeling that you need to be perfect with it, which really isn't the case at all. But you need to sell like an illusion that it's possible, right? So it gets a little it can get a little hairy in there, that's for sure. Yeah, it is. That's for sure. So we're going to wrap her up then. I just want to say thanks everybody that stopped by, and I appreciate all the support on Patreon, all the support you guys are giving me on Facebook, especially here on YouTube, or especially right now if you guys are on live stream, sharing the links every Wednesday and stuff. Really appreciate it. It's going a long way. The channel's growing and stuff. I'm getting emails from people all the time, good and bad, but mostly good. So, you know, I can't say thank you enough for that. But yeah, like I said earlier, there will be the Pomodoro article tomorrow or Friday of the last week here of October. Hopefully sooner, more than later, as well as a video as well, so you guys can kind of see how I use that for trying to hit deadlines for comics, and it might improve some of your stuff. If you've only got like a certain amount of time on your weekend or after work to just hammer out an illustration, maybe you'll see when I go over it, it's just breaking down what do you need to be done in that illustration, how much time do you have, and then figuring out, okay, well I only have 10 minutes to do the pencils, right? Like that changes a lot of how you think, and you're probably not going to like it. There's probably a lot of resistance to it up front, and I totally get that, because in my view anyway, whenever it was like I sit down to do personal work, I can just do it. You know, there's nobody telling me that no line is bad and no line's good. It's just me trying to do the best I can. The problem with that I always had, and I still have, is that I end up noodling, or I don't commit to certain things, and it just takes too long, and most people won't even notice. So it might be something you might be interested in checking out. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I will see you next Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we usually do a little pre-show stuff with some music, half hour before the show starts, just to get warmed up and ready for the stream. So until next Wednesday, guys, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.